Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Addressing the Skills Gap and Improving Safety with Augmented Reality. Thank you for joining. My name is Stephanie, and I'll be your moderator. While we wait for more people to join and settle in, a few housekeeping items. Although there is no live Q&A today, you may submit questions for the speakers in the chat. Sarah and Ron will get back to you in a timely manner. This webinar is also being recorded and will be available to watch on demand shortly following today's discussion. All participants will receive an email when the playback is ready. In a moment, you will hear from Ronn Englehart, Corporate Continuous Improvement Practitioner at Intertape Polymer Group, and Sarah Reynolds, VP of AR and IoT Marketing at PTC. We're excited for today's content, and with that, I'll hand it over to Sarah to kick off the talk.
Thanks, Steph. Welcome to the audience today. So excited to have you joining us. As Steph mentioned, my name is Sarah Reynolds. My pronouns are she and they, and I'm the Vice President of Marketing for PTC's Vuforia Augmented Reality business. PTC, if you're not familiar with us, is a global software company, and we're really focused on enabling industrial companies to realize, real business value by accelerating product and service innovation, improving your overall operational efficiency, and of course, increasing your workforce productivity. Today, we're going to talk about AR, which is a big passion area of mine, and I'm so excited to do so. So, really, when we think about the opportunity for AR, it comes with empowering our frontline workers to succeed in the jobs that they need to do all day, every day. You can see here on the slide, about 75% of employees worldwide are actually on the front line. And, really, they're an essential resource for all of us in industrial organizations. But really, we're not doing them justice when it comes to supporting them with the tools and technologies that they need to succeed and to really get their job done and done right. So, a Forrester study recently found that less than a quarter of frontline workers actually say that they have access to the technology they need to be productive. And that's a tremendous miss for us. As we think about, the value, again, that these folks bring to our organizations, it's really critical that we're empowering them and supporting them with the technology that they need to do that work. I'm so excited to be joined today here with Ronn from Intertape Polymer Group, or IPG, who's going to be telling us a little bit about how their organization is looking to do just that. So, Ronn, why don't you give us a brief introduction to yourself and to IPG?
Yeah, first of all, Sarah and Stephanie, thank you for allowing us to share IPG's journey in AR with the audience. I am Ronn Englehart. I am the Digital Continuous Improvement Program Manager for IPG. So one thing I wanted to share is a little bit about who IPG is. So who is Intertape Polymer Group? And we're a leading packaging and protective solutions company. We manufacture anything from industrial tapes and specialty tapes. So industrial tapes that go into carton sealing, all the way up to specialty tapes that impact automotive industry, aeronautics, oil and gas. We also produce a wide array of stretch and shrink films. We also offer other protective packaging solutions, whether it be air bubbles, void fill, mailers, and we actually have our own line of premium dispensers for tape. And then we also have an entire division around wovens. So your structured fabrics, things that go on house wrap or lumber wrap, and geomembranes. So we offer a very large product bundle to support a vast consumer base. So the products that you see coming through e-commerce, whether it comes through Amazon or Walmart, have our tape products in it to protect your package as it delivers to your porch. Our products have been to space, and we've also been known to assist in natural disasters. Our products were actually used in Katrina to help resolve the flooding that was occurring in that area. We have 28 manufacturing and assembly locations across 3 continents. We're truly establishing ourselves as a global supplier to the industry. Over the past 6 years, we've seen tremendous growth in our organization. We've seen organic growth through establishing greenfield and brownfield locations, as well as we continue to expand our product bundle through strategic acquisition.
Ronn, thanks for that introduction to IPG. Can you give us a quick overview of IPG's Industry 4.0 journey and how you folks are thinking about digital transformation?
Absolutely. So best way to look at it is, how is Industry 4.0 relatively new compared to its predecessor, lean manufacturing? And when you look at a Google search and you look up lean manufacturing, you get about 116 million results. Lean manufacturing really started with Henry Ford in 1913. Toyota perfected it over the decades, starting in the 1930s. And many would argue that lean manufacturing dates all the way back to the 1400s, started in Venice and producing galleon ships. So why is it that you have almost 6 times the number of hits when you look up Industry 4.0 on Google compared to its lean manufacturer? Quite simply, it's because there is no proven playbook for Industry 4.0. And right now, we're all dabbling, we're wading in the same waters versus lean manufacturing. Lean manufacturing has Six Sigma, SMED, value stream. It has classes and trainings and consultants readily available to tell you how to execute a lean strategy. That doesn't exist for Industry 4.0 and a lot of the experience that we're going through. Thus, so many searches for Industry 4.0. About 30% of companies who attempt to scale a digital 4.0 program fail to meet their ROI. And part of it is because they're not developing that strategy. And that's part of the story that I want to share with you today. So when IPG looked at key enablers for digital transformation early in our journey, we wanted to make sure that we started with a learning environment, that we were benchmarking and doing research on the key technologies around digital transformation. We wanted to make sure that we changed our philosophy on growth mindset so that we understood what true success meant. And part of that is really about embracing failure. In the past, people would say failure is not an option. But what we say is fail is the first attempt in learning. So what's key for us is key to fail early and fail inexpensively. We also need to be willing to take a calculated risk. So something that is outside of our comfort level, but making sure that we have a strategy to implement that successfully. When you look at some key digital technologies that we're scaling across IPG, we actually have 7 different initiatives that we're looking at. The key focus today is going to be around the AR, but we also have programs where we're taking digital information and putting it into advanced analytics. And we're phasing that and scaling that across 9 locations. We're looking at 3D printing, not as a generation or a revenue for us, but in today's supply chain market, it's difficult for us to get spare parts for our equipment. We're looking at machine health, so technologies to bolster our predictive maintenance programs, to gather that information and develop advanced analytics algorithms to tell us when our equipment is failing in advance of the failure. We're putting together a centralized maintenance system so we can more efficiently and effectively communicate across the sites when it comes to maintenance protocols. We're introducing machine as a service not only into our operations for consumption, but also how do we introduce machine as a service to our customers? And then taking our safety platforms, our digital information around safety, and scaling that so that we can close out safety issues more rapidly.
Ron, this is a great list, certainly an exhaustive list of technologies that you folks are looking at. I'm sure many of which are familiar to folks on the phone here today. You know, obviously the focus of today's call is about augmented reality. So can you tell us a little bit about maybe some of the pain points or problems that manufacturers and specifically IPG is looking to address and where you see AR potentially adding value?
Absolutely. So the remainder of this, I'm really going to focus on how our deployment strategy was with aspects to augmented reality. And I wanted to share this slide because really this is where my head was at. As a kid growing up, me and my dad worked on muscle cars. So what I was trying to do is establish a difference in how I learned, whether it be Chilton manuals, Holley manuals, and in this case, I'm looking to tune a Holley 4-barrel car. And it would take me and my dad weekends going through the manuals, trying to disseminate the information from a written SOP to be able to produce a well-tuned Holley car. And what's available today through YouTube generation, I could find that same content and get the information I needed in 7 minutes and 37 seconds. The issue today is if I search on many of my manufacturing equipment, this YouTube content doesn't exist. I have to be able to generate this content in a more meaningful way that is easy for our operators to consume. And that was the focus of AR for me. So what were those pain points that we were looking at for AR to assist us with? Number one for us is the safety of our employees and our business. So we looked at it from the aspect of life-critical safety. How could we use AR to validate the effectiveness of our safety training and safety compliance? Secondly, IPG is a great place to work. We have operators that have spent decades, their entire adult life working for our company, but they get to retire as well. And we want to make sure that we capture that expert knowledge and that we pass that knowledge on to the next generation in a meaningful way. We also had an opportunity where we were exploring new business, new technology, and that we had no subject matter experts to help train our operators. So we need to establish that from the ground up. I think everybody knows right now that skilled labor is in short supply. So we also wanted the ability to be able to use AR technology to upskill an operator running a piece of equipment into a skilled labor force that we could utilize in the future. And then finally, as we're trying to attract the next generation of manufacturing employee into our facility, we wanted to be able to use Industry 4.0, specifically AR, to be able to attract those new employees to our facility. So those were the pain points we were really focusing on in our AR journey. So when we disseminated all that information down, we looked at it in these primary use cases. So when we talk about life critical, we wanted to focus on lockout tagout. So how do I ensure that the standard work around lockout tagout is validated, that it's recorded, and that we have that evidence? And when I say lockout tagout, we had a great lockout tagout program in our Brady performance system. We do a great job at documenting that. We wanted the ability to make it go a step further. How could I navigate a person within the facility to perform that lockout tagout? And how could I validate that they did it correctly? Secondly, we wanted to talk about onboarding and recruiting. So again, those senior employees that we love dearly, we'd want to hold on to them forever, but how do I capture their knowledge so that the next generation can learn without them being there? So gathering those work instructions, establishing that training protocol. And secondly, on the recruiting side, from that aspect, how could we use AR as a recruiting tool? And one of the examples videos that we'll show you later on will show you how we utilize that. Then we wanted to look at quality, QC inspections. What is the standard work around our QC inspections? What are the acceptance criteria? And in the event that we had an issue with quality, what troubleshooting could we provide to the operator to get out of that quality situation? The last two buckets that I'm showing in the primary use case are really around that upskilling. How do I upskill an operator on the floor to be more a skilled labor workforce within our environment? The block there that we call equipment process care is really what you would see as TPM or DTM, or your autonomous maintenance program within your lean manufacturing environment. So how did we take our equipment process care, give it detailed visuals that were easy to understand. What were the expected results? And how would that operator then verify the performance of the equipment during that process care inspection? And then secondly, on maintenance rounds and preventive maintenance, what are our standard work procedures around preventive maintenance and PM programs? What visual standards could we use within the AR platform to help support good skilled labor performance? And then again, how do we verify that that is being done? How do we go ahead and look at the information that was collected during that to more adequately bolster our preventive maintenance program?
So Ron, I'm sure a lot of folks on the phone have thought about maybe some of the use cases like these, but maybe they also don't know where to get started. So how did you actually go about laying out your AR strategy, and what kinds of things did you need to consider prior to implementation and during your implementation of AR?
Absolutely. So let's start with pre-implementation. So prior to implementing the program, we wanted to make sure we had a few critical aspects in place. First of all is alignment, making sure that our key stakeholders internally and externally were aligned with where we were moving with our augmented reality program. We wanted to make sure that we had resources allocated, not only the PTC resources that help us in the training, but making sure that we had the resources, because in a new initiative, sometimes it becomes the existing workforce that then takes on that new initiative. We wanted to make sure that we were resourcing properly for a successful implementation. And then really alignment around expectations and reporting. So again, those value generation metrics. How are we collecting information to support that? And then how are we reporting that up and down throughout the organization? Secondly, we wanted to make sure we had a technology implementation plan. So what technology? There's so many opportunities you can have with AR, whether it be a HoloLens, RealWear, smartphones, tablets, PCs. We wanted to make sure that we had the right technology structure at the different aspects within the business. We also wanted to make sure that we tied out security, cybersecurity. Are the devices secure? Is the information secure? And then thirdly, connectivity. Do I have good connectivity of the technology within the facility, and can I access that content? Then we developed a deployment strategy. What's the who, what, when, where, why, and how do we establish the priority? Because again, like any other project, it's that elephant in the room. You got to take one bite, right? So where's the first bite, and where do we move, so on and so forth. And that comes from establishing that priority. And then lastly, the value generation metric. So how do we assess or measure success? How much pain was it causing to the organization? What is the risk that if I don't do anything to the organization? And then really what everybody understands, the return, the dollar value return. So what am I returning from a dollar aspect to the bottom line? So what was key for us, and this is actually, we have one of these for each segment of digital transformation that we're doing, but this is our alignment on AR transformation. So we make sure we had alignment top down and down up. So the reporting structure goes up and down in this scenario, but we have senior level sponsors from Senior VP of Operations, VP of Operations, and the VP of our Business Transformation Office. We also have senior leadership from IT to make sure that the connectivity and security is there, and also from our VP of Finance. So as I validate the value generation through AR, does he agree with what I am reporting out as return on that investment? Secondly, we have enterprise project champions. In this case, that's me. So I'm the project application lead. I'm the champion of AR within our organization. And then when we drill down to the plant level, we have continuous improvement practitioners that assist at the plant level with support of the operations manager. And what you see there in gold is a learning experience for us in resourcing. Make sure that you have people dedicated. It takes time to dedicate this content. In the end, it's well worth the journey, but make sure that you have somebody dedicated to do that. And then internally at each of the sites, we have a site IT champion that goes ahead and secures the devices, makes sure all the software is working functionally, and that everything is secure across the internet channels. And then the controller, the local controller, validating those value metrics. So again, investing in application development plus digital training is really going to provide that process excellence. So then we looked at it in implementation phase. And really, this is still towards the beginning of the journey, but we looked at it from six different aspects. The first being technology readiness. Did we choose the devices we wanted in the different applications? Were the devices secure? And is the software installed? Then we looked at IT readiness. Are the basic support functions close? And the last one I put on here is Wi-Fi signal strength. Make sure you go through your facility where you're going to use these devices and that you can truly access the content within the plant. Training. So now that we have the devices we want, I've got to be able to train the people on how to perform and execute these tasks. So we start with basic training. We establish our subject matter experts, our technical writers, our technical protocols that go in place. And once that training was done, we piloted small 4 to 5 segment trainings to make sure they understood the training that was provided. Then I talk about scale, so that deployment strategy, making sure that we understood what was critical to our business for rollout and that we were meeting our value generation objectives. Then we deploy, and that deployment strategy serves multiple aspects. A, you know where the journey's headed, and B, that you can hold yourself accountable for executing that plan.
So obviously a ton of thought going into, implementation at IPG, but of course, we're not just implementing technology for technology's sake. So how do you really think about the value that these kinds of initiatives might bring to IPG? And maybe could you share some examples of how adding AR to your training or manufacturing processes has impacted some, real tangible business outcomes?
Absolutely, Sarah. So I'm going to do 2 different things here. I'm going to talk about some of the frameworks that we established in advance, not only for the baseline metrics, but also how we were prioritizing the information for our deployment plan. That's this first slide. The second slide, I'm going to show you some of what we were able to generate within our organization so far since we implemented. But when we looked at it, and if you look at the center segment, it's really about baselining. So understanding your equipment. So if it was a pain point, it's a pain point. If you know what the pain point is, you should be able to measure it, right? So we went and collected baseline measurements on our key pain points within the organization. Then we went ahead and we put together, and essentially what we did was establish an FMEA for what critical equipment was out there. And we looked at it from key aspects. We looked at it from a safety aspect. So where do I have potential safety hazards or issues? We looked at it from quality. Where do I generate potentially poorer quality than other positions within the organization? What is the return on investment? What is the criticality to the business? So how important is that piece of equipment to the business operation? But then we also looked at it from, as I go ahead and scale, do I have opportunities where I can easily replicate? And when I say replicate, means I have a work cell very similar, in which after I capture that information with very small changes, I could easily deploy to multiple pieces of equipment within the organization. So those were important for us to measure. And we actually kind of put it into an FMEA and actually generated an RPN value to score the equipment. And that's how we set priority within the facility. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see a deployment strategy where we're actually working through work instruction by work instruction on how we are going to deploy that AR training within the facility. And that's what we're going to that's our roadmap for the site, but also our level of accountability on when we expect to execute those plans. So when we looked at it, AR technology and attracting that new talent, we looked at it from 4 different aspects. Recruitment. So when I go ahead and recruit for AR technology, I'm looking for that potential rather than that experience. And I'll share an example of where that became critical for us. We look at it from training and development, making sure we develop and promote a training program that it ensures growth and advancement opportunity. So if you look at studies out there about the next generation and how they are willing to move every 3 to 5 years, what they are looking for, number 1, is work-life balance. Number 2 is they're looking for that growth and advancement opportunity. And we wanted to make sure we captured that. We look at it from Industry 4.0 and that we're embracing the digital revolution and use it as a platform for training and advancement. And then also making it part of our culture. So make training and growth within the organization part of our company's offering as a selling feature to that new talent. So let's next take a look at what it meant to IPG since our rollout. Sorry, I'm back up. No, go to the next slide. Sorry, Stephanie. So I want to talk about the value creation key metrics. So we look at it in 2 bases. We look at it from a quantitative assessment. We look at it from a qualitative assessment. So what can I measure? So we're going to measure our life-critical tasks captured. We're going to measure our time to proficiency, our cost of training, our time to onboard, our job turnover rate, waste reduction, and changeover time reduction. And then from a qualitative assessment side, we're looking at how are we in compliance with our ISO training? How do they see our AR implementation from an ISO perspective? How are we doing from talent acquisition? What does new talent think of our AR technology? How easy is it for our operators to adopt and consume that content? And then from a customer experience. And again, the qualitative assessments we're handling through interviews, through surveys, and that's how we're assessing these qualitative metrics. So I want to talk about where IPG has generated value in the organization. So we talked about lockout tagout compliance, and I mentioned we have a very good training program for lockout tagout, but where we were lacking is our ability to audit every time that occurred. We were only about 43% of all the lockout tagout procedures were actually audited for compliance. And we wanted to get to the point where we had a closed loop safety audit that we're going to generate through our AR training over the course of time to validate those procedures were done and done correctly. Yield improvement. So I took one of our beta site 2. Our initial state, we were at 91.9% total yield, and our goal was to improve that by 10 to 15%. We are actually now at 93% total yield. Now, I put the caveat in there that that's directionally correct because there's multiple projects that we're working on that all impact yield. But we do know through our changeover time reductions, the SMED projects that we've worked on through AR, that we are having a tangible impact on yield. Let's look at labor efficiency. Labor efficiency is a direct result of the AR work that we're doing. So we compared that to our 2020 standards. We wanted a 10% improvement. So in site 1, we're seeing 12% improvement in our labor efficiency. And at site 2, we're seeing 5.7% improvement. And then we wanted to look at that training time to proficiency. So when we typically had onboarded in the past, it would take us 5 days and we do that for about 66 employees annually. Our general time to proficiency, so still a subject matter expert working with them, was 60 days. And really when they can stand alone on their own was taking about 90 days. Our goal was to onboard in 4 days and get those training efficiency or proficiency times down by 30 days in each category. I don't have necessarily information to share with you at this point, but what I will say is we had the ability, based on the new technology that we were implementing, to really showcase how this is working. And we're currently in the process of tracking our production rates and yields to assess our time to proficiency. But what I will say is we were able to generate 40 procedures relatively rapidly in order to support that new equipment. We were able to generate new content in roughly 5.3 hours per procedure, which is a vast improvement over where we were. When we look at publication time, we would publish about 210 new procedures annually at about 8 hours per procedure. And we would update about 600 procedures annually. Roughly, those would take about 45 minutes by the time you changed all your Word documents and pictures and all the titles and all of that stuff that goes with updating the procedure, right? So our goal was to reduce that by 25%. As I mentioned before, in our new procedures, we're able to generate, instead of 8 hours, it takes about 5.3 hours. And obviously, we'll improve on those times as we move forward, as we get more people trained and onboarded with how to generate that new content. And we took our procedure update time from about 45 minutes down to about 22 minutes. So one thing I did want to share with the team, I did a short snippet video of a lockout tagout procedure on one of our pieces of equipment, and Cody's going to demonstrate that for you.
Loading experience.
Start procedure. Next step. Next step. Next step. Play video.
Remove the lockout tagout instructions and read them. Remove the lockout tagout instructions and read them.
Page down. Play video.
Remove the first lock, 215J. Remove the first lock, 215J.
Page down. Play video.
Walk to the lockout point for 215J. Turn the power off. Secure the lock and remove the key. Walk to the lockout point for 215J.
Next step.
Turn the power off.
So really, we were thinking about out-of-the-box opportunities as well. So how can you use AR in recruitment? And what you see here over on the right-hand side was actually a job fair where we actually took our HoloLens technology to the job fair, and we actually generated content within the facility that they could see on the AR. And that's kind of what we wanted to show you here.
Welcome to the Intertape Polymer Group Carbondale operation. I'm Aaron Chris, the operations manager here on the site. The facility is engaged in the manufacturing and production of many different industrial specialty tapes to include golf grip tape, painter's tape, and tape used in the moving and packaging industry. You're going to meet a couple of my colleagues today that are going to show you around our coating department and our converting department. So if you are interested in a job that's going to propel into a career, then this is the place that you're going to be interested in. well as we are truly involved and engaged in our employees' growth and the priorities placed on safety. So I hope you enjoy, and welcome to IPG.
Hello, my name is Robert Boland. I'm the coding manager here at Intertape Polymer Group, Carbondale. I'm going to walk you through our department.
Hi, I'm Daryl Lynch, the converting manager here at Intertape Polymer Group, Carbondale, and we're going to kind of walk you around our department and show you what we do.
Ron, thank you so much for sharing those examples. I love to see AR impacting, not only employees who currently work at IPG, but the talent you're trying to recruit out in the marketplace too. That's so cool. I know, from talking to you, IPG has a real clear vision for digital transformation and what the future of work looks like. So how do you see AR providing value moving forward as you look out to that future?
Absolutely. So we are investing significant amount of capital in our digital transformation because we want to make sure we're driving operational excellence going into this digital era. We've had digital information available at our fingertips for decades. Our machines have generated tons of information, but we haven't been able to disseminate it not only from necessarily a predictive maintenance aspect or advanced analytics perspective, but we haven't been able to visualize that content either, okay? So we call it operational excellence or Intertape Performance System 2.0. 1.0 was actually our lean journey that we started back in 2012, and this is the next evolution of our performance system. We looked at it from talent upskilling, reskilling, and onboarding. Obviously, AR falls right into that arena. We're looking at investing in technologies from IoT, sensors. All of that information could then be made visual to our operations. And making sure that applications of analytics across the company, advanced analytics, artificial intelligence as we phase into the next evolution of digital transformation. And I think the next slide really puts kind of my vision of AR and digital transformation in a very simple context. My goal, the goal of our organization with AR, is to take this digital information and making that connection to the virtual world. So how do I take all the data that's available to me and make it something easy to understand? And that's what you see here on the right-hand side.
Thanks, Ron. As we wrap up, what final recommendations do you have for the folks in the audience who are thinking about implementing AR, to empower their frontline teams?
Sure. So I did it in 5 quick takeaways. Make sure you identify your pain points. You need to know what AR is going to correct for you. Make sure you plan your execution strategy. So make sure you have a detailed plan, not only how to move forward, but hold yourself accountable for it. Make sure you sufficiently resource your deployment plan and learn from us, because we started our AR journey and decided that additional resourcing was needed in order to advance the program forward. Once we did that, the ball just started tumbling down the hill. Measure and validate your successes. Make sure you celebrate your wins and learn from your losses. It's okay to celebrate your losses too. So again, for us at IPG, we're still just getting started.
Thanks, Ron. Thank you for sharing those insights from IPG. It's so great to hear, really the nitty gritty of how folks are thinking about implementing and deriving value from augmented reality. One of the reasons we here at PTC are so passionate about augmented reality is because of the tremendous impact it has in empowering frontline workers to do their job. As we talked about at the beginning of today's program, frontline workers are really underserved, and anything that we can do to help them do their job more efficiently, more effectively, and more safely is obviously going to have tremendous business impact, as you heard from Ron today with some of these IPG examples. You know, AR, the power of AR is that it really allows relevant information to be displayed digitally in context or on top of the physical world in which we all work. And as Ron said, you know, really that's a great vision to bring those two things together in order to empower your employees. It really gives them that critical and, in fact, contextualized information that they need to complete all of the work that they're doing. You know, easy to consume visual AR guided work instructions, similar to the ones that we've described today. You know, they're great for on the job training. They certainly, you know, help our employees navigate through the work that they need to do. You might not know that they actually reduce cognitive strain. Ron talked about how paper manuals are so difficult to parse and how much easier it is when someone walks you through the procedure step by step. That's certainly a tremendous value of AR. They also connect employees to that relevant information more quickly and obviously help improve their safety and compliance with the information that you're providing. So key capabilities of AR, just as we wrap here for folks who are looking to learn more about the technology, you know, highly visual, easy to follow, it's easy to understand. The guidance, again, is presented in context. It's delivered at the point of need associated with a specific task or a specific machine that the employee is looking to work on at that time. It's on demand. You can have real-time accessibility to best practices or some of that tacit domain knowledge that Ron mentioned might be today locked inside employees' heads. It's easy to capture that knowledge to make sure that it's something that you can reuse in your training materials or your job aids as you go forward, even after those folks retire and potentially leave your organization. It's always relevant. It's easy to keep it, you know, up to date, make sure it's engaging for your employees. Ron talked about the value they've seen in reducing the amount of time that it takes to update materials. That's certainly something we hear from a lot of our customers. And finally, it's scalable across the enterprise. You create it once, you can share it across many different device formats. And this is something that you can use, again, in multiple different parts of your organization, whether it's your onboarding program, your reskilling program, maybe your day-to-day work out on the front line or in the field. You know, obviously, most importantly, all of these capabilities are really there to unlock value for you and for your team and certainly for your frontline workforce. And speaking of value, you know, we see AR delivering real tremendous business value similar to what Ron shared today. You know, our customers talk to us all the time about how, you know, with the increased pressure in our global market, that operational excellence, continuous improvement, they're more important than ever before. And certainly they're looking for that blueprint to implement Industry 4.0 to really realize some of that value and that improvement. You know, we need a more flexible and agile workforce to increase our quality and yield. We need to meet the changing demands of our customers. We need to reduce scrap and rework. You know, we need to reduce downtime. We want to reduce or control labor and training costs. And certainly, you know, we want to increase our competitive differentiation by being able to respond quickly to customer demands with high quality products, lowering our cost. Our customers are also, you know, obviously, as you folks know, feeling increased pressure to grow, you know, maybe service revenue, profitability. They're looking for ways to drive product and service sales and reduce the risk of churn by improving the customer experience. And, you know, really the common denominator to all of these things is that you need to empower your frontline workforce with those critical tools and technologies they need to be successful, you know, increase their safety, efficiency, and accuracy, and ultimately realize some of these benefits like the ones that you see on the screen here, whether it's workforce efficiency, quality and yield, or cost and waste.
Well, folks, this concludes our presentation for today. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. As I indicated earlier, this webinar was recorded and will be emailed to all registrants. I'd like to thank each of our speakers, Ron and Sarah, for participating in today's discussion, and I'd also like to thank our audience for attending this webinar. We hope you found this event valuable and will return for future PTC webinars. Thank you again and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks.